There's no surprise that now we're living in a high inflationary economic environment. Everything's expensive. Now, but when you hear things that are being said about the reasons, the causes, the origins behind this high inflation that we're living in right now, and this is not, specific to the US, it's wide world, it's global. You will hear, something like, this is the fault of, Putin, is the fault of, X and Y. But what are the real reasons? What are the real, behind the scenes baseline that it's not talked about on mainstream media or by the current administration? Because I believe what I'm going to share with you in this video will open your eyes, if not yet the case, around what exactly should have been done and have not been done yet, hence causing inflation to not go down, crushing our portfolios and our wallets, especially at the gas station and at the grocery store. So let's see exactly what I'm talking about here, because we had this really interesting letter that President Biden wrote yesterday to the oil companies. All right, let's listen first, and then we're going to comment afterwards.
Oil industry of profiting from the record high gas prices. That from an open letter to 7 of the biggest oil companies, including ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP America, and Shell. The president wrote that historically high refinery profit margins being passed directly on to the American families are not acceptable. Mr. Biden added that companies must take immediate actions to increase the supply of gas, diesel, and other refined product. If not, the president warned, he is considering invoking emergency powers to boost America's oil supply. This comes as we're all feeling the pain at the pump. AAA report the national average gas price is about $5 a gallon, 50 cents more than last month, nearly $2 more than last year. CBC's Kayla Tausche live at the White House. Kayla, first he put it on Putin. Now he's blaming both Putin and big oil.
Well, Shep, President Biden is now asking major oil companies to explain why they haven't returned to pre-pandemic levels of refining and enjoying those higher margins in the process. ExxonMobil, for one, responded to the White House saying, "We've been investing through the downturn to increase refining capacity, even during the pandemic when we lost more than $20 billion and had to borrow more than $30 billion. Overall, in the United States, oil refiners are operating at about 94% capacity, though the amount of oil they're capable of refining has fallen by about 1 million barrels of oil per day since the pandemic peak. Today, the press secretary said companies should increase gas supply at all costs for the good of American consumers.
We see that as an important first step in making sure that the oil refineries are doing their part, again, patriotic duty, in making sure that they're putting out capacity and they're not taking advantage of a war that is hurting the American public.
So this is the last part where things are so much ridiculous, folks. So much ridiculous. Why? Because no doubt, and this has nothing to do with being from the left or from the right. This is about being rational and looking at the facts and the data in order to make sure we combat and put inflation down. All right, because they're talking about what Putin is blaming. This is the Putin price hike. This is because of Putin invading Ukraine that we have oil and gas prices at record highs. Yes and no. Yes, because of course, war. And I'm not condoning what Russia is doing in Ukraine, because violence doesn't solve anything at all. That's my opinion. That's my stand, and I stand firm on it. Now, that being said, the reaction, the policies, all the sanctions that are being imposed into Russia is now what is causing this high inflation. And President Biden said it himself that this is going to be a sacrifice for the American people to take onto their shoulders. And now they're blaming oil companies why they're not pumping oil enough in order to bring prices down. Well, you have a bad energy policy in place because you are pushing for green energies. And that's why you're making everything in your power in order to combat fossil fuel, which is oil and gas companies. All right. So why will they in the heck shoot themselves in the foot? Because when 2020 happened and everything crashed, the oil sector was the most hit sector. Our companies were the most hit companies. In 2008, when the financial crisis happened, airline sector companies got bailed out. Car companies got bailed out. Banks and financial sector companies got bailed out. In 2020, nothing happened. So right now, what are you blaming them? And let me share with you something really, really interesting here when it comes to what he said about ExxonMobil making more money than God in 2020 so far. Where is it? Okay, so the administration said corporations are prioritizing financial returns at the expense of Americans. Wrong. Exxon made more money than God this year, Biden said on Friday. Well, let's see exactly how true this is, because these are facts, people, right? We're talking about projected earnings for the whole year of 2022. All right? So, Exxon, $41 billion. JP Morgan, 60. Microsoft, 70. Google, 73. Then Apple, 100 billion. I don't even want to talk about Amazon or Tesla. All right? So, can you please explain to me again, what does it mean by Exxon making more money than God? I don't see it here. As a matter of fact, they are still at the bottom of the entire S&P 500 sector. If you look just at these few companies here representing banks and technology, which are the biggest companies in the US, by the way. All right? So just to tell you that this whole thing about inflation, to me, doesn't mean that they have our best interest at heart. And my best interest, by us, I mean us, the consumer. Because if we had an energy policy that will allow companies to continue to operate as businesses, and in the meantime not crushing them, we will be in a position where gas will not be averaging $5 a gallon across the nation. That's number one. Number two, have you considered that the sanctions that are being put in Russia are also playing a huge part in this? Not what Russia did, but the sanctions that you guys impose on Russia. All right? And then finally, if they were really, intentional about putting inflation down, I think something would have been done months and years ago. But nothing is being done. So this is another reason why I still believe inflation is still going to continue to be high. But maybe if we are lucky, we may not see a recession for the economy before 2023. But that opens the door for something really important. You, as a household, as a person, all right, how can you prepare in order not to be crushed financially? We're going to talk about that in a separate video, so make sure you don't miss that, please. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, folks.